He spoke in a British accent, that he claimed this case had nothing to do with him, and insisted that he was Arthur Knight instead of Nicholas Rossi. Finally, in October of 2024, he admitted under oath that he was Nicholas Rossi and Nicholas Alahverdian, and we will ask you to find the defendant, Nicholas Alahverdian, guilty of rape.
And that is exactly what the jury did. Breaking overnight, the jury found defendant Nicholas Rossi Alahverdian guilty of rape due to a court order. We couldn't bring you this verdict live. We had to wait a little bit, but we have it now. Take a listen.
The jury is now in the courtroom and the parties are present. Counsel, the four-person you have selected, please stand. Have you reached a verdict in this case?
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
Could you please hand the verdict form to the bailiff? The bailiff will hand it to me, and I will hand it to my clerk to read.
In the state of Utah versus Nicholas Edward Rossi, case number 221-906-768. We, the jurors in the above case, unanimously find the defendant as follows. To count 1, rape, guilty. Dated this 13th day of August 2025, signed the foreperson.
Is this your verdict?
This is our verdict.
Counsel, is there anything further on this case before the jury is discharged?
Can we have the jury polled, please?
You can. I would like each member of the jury, the verdict form in front of you states guilty. Raise your hand if that was your verdict. The court notes that all 8 members of the jury unanimously found guilty.
All right, there it was, guilty for Nicholas Rossi, went by Arthur Knight for a while he was in Scotland, guilty of sexual assault against an ex-girlfriend back in 2008. He did fake his own death as part of this scenario when he went to Scotland and changed his name to Arthur Knight. He claimed he was an orphan and named after King Arthur. He was a doozy. I mean, you talk about Nicholas Custodis, well, old Nicholas Rossi was right up there. 2 Nicholases, same week, court TV, and insanity, bananas. Rossi's going to be scheduled for sentencing October 20th. Michael J. Brown, John Phillips. No surprise here. Your thoughts, John?
I mean, bananas is pretty good. You know, I almost made a joke. I'm sorry, do you call me John? My name is, Todd Prince. Like, I'm just going to change my identity just like that. But Arthur Knight in Scotland is it's just preposterously bad. But, so is this guy, and I think he's got more justice coming his way. But this was a wild one.
Michael, the defendant here can't, he didn't testify, but the victim did, and she really brought this thing to life. And it just happened in 2008. It was a while ago. She got very emotional though when she talked about Rossi and what he did. He was very charming, seemed very interested in school and politics, and he basically took her for a ride. She had just suffered a brain injury, and he kind of wooed her, and then she went into the details, forcing me to have sex with him, afraid, frozen, and as she said, it was a little bit more timid back then and was unable to stand up for herself. How important was her, and in any of these cases, the victim coming to take the stand and really bringing the jury into that moment, because she seemed to really hit it out of the park?
Yeah, these are very difficult cases, Ted, for the prosecution, because you have to put on a very sensitive, traumatized victim / complaining witness who's going to be subject to cross-examination. So they are difficult cases to prove. What's interesting here, he didn't take the stand, but they destroyed him character-wise. And really, it was based on what we call consciousness of guilt. He changes his name. He fakes his death. They have videos of him faking a British accent. So what this does is it shows he's evasive. He tried to avoid prosecution, avoid apprehension, and that all goes to this strong argument of consciousness of guilt, even though he never took the stand. And what that does is it kind of buttresses, backs up and supports the victim's testimony, and that's where they really got that conviction, coupled with the fact that they were able to bring in this other victim on an unrelated case, common plan or scheme, very similar type of rape allegation, reinforced everything.
Yeah, it's like the New York Molyneux witness. It's a great tool that prosecutors use. John Phillips, and to that point, he didn't take the stand, but the jurors got to know him, and the prosecution leaned into his bizarre behavior. So in a case that's that old, that is a he said, she said, now all of a sudden this victim has instant credibility and the defendant is going to be looked at very skeptically, correct?
Correct. We were nodding our head at exactly on sync. You know, that's always good. But it's, yeah, I mean, credibility. What more was he going to say when they brought up all the, you know, faking death and changing names and again, consciousness of guilt. And I'm never surprised anymore by the types of guys that pull this coercive control over. I've got an intake this morning about a similar type case where, you know, a person that could woo and talk the talk, you know, wound up coercively controlling somebody and having similar facts to this case on the civil side. And, you know, you really just got to dig deep into the perpetrator. And oftentimes you see, you know, just flawed humans that just think they can get away with everything and the world is at their, you know, beck and call.
Yeah, I was just looking at the photos of him in Scotland with his hat, and he's got the whole thing. If you have time, you should Google Andrea Canning Dateline podcast of interviewing him. It is literally a Monty Python skit, the way he delivers it. Michael, people have this power over other individuals, but it's very rare that a defendant can pull it off in front of jurors, like we're seeing with the Sotis case too, that yeah, you may have manipulated an individual, but you enter the justice system and things change pretty quickly.
Yeah, yes and no, Ted. I mean, sometimes you have these really charming, manipulative people who are able to sell their story to a jury. Other times under cross-examination, because you got to remember, now you're being challenged versus just that relationship outside of a courtroom. But when you have a strong prosecutor who's able to challenge that individual, their whole tale can be unwoven and really exposed in front of the jurors. But I have seen instances where you have these individuals who can get up on the stand and really dazzle a bunch of jurors and sell their story.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. Especially, and it could have been in this case because it was a he said, she said, but the nonsense surrounding it didn't fly. Rossi, Arthur Knight, wherever you want to call him, he went down last night.